YouTube, how you doing? Java Kid Programming here today, bringing you yet another video tutorial in the Java Programming tutorial series. Now, the topic we're going to be covering today is procedure calls or function calls. We're just going to jump straight into the code because the only way to explain it would be to show you what I'm talking about. So we're going to create a new project of Java application and we're going to call it procedure calls. Don't forget to create the main class, so we don't need to write public static void main string args, and it'll set up the code for us. So basically what we have created here is one procedure. Now this is the main procedure which the program reads all the code from and which it starts from. So anything in this main procedure that a program will execute from immediately. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to make another procedure. We're going to call this procedure something, and the way we started is public static void. Let's say for the purpose of today's program we're going to be calling a myPower procedure. And we're going to open new curly brackets. So here we have two procedures. And for the purpose of today's program, we're going to be making a power calculator. So basically enter a value you want to raise that number to, and then it will do the power of function on that number. So if we had 2 as the number and 3 as the power, it would do 2 to the power of 3. But we're going to put the calculation in this procedure instead of putting it in the main block of procedure, so our code looks more neater, more succinct, and we know which parts handle which functions or which parts handle which calculations. So to start, we're going to define a new variable. Two new variables. Firstly, we need one variable, which is the number the user would like to raise to a power. We're also going to define a new number, which is the power to the user would like to raise. So first we need to get input off the user, and to do that we need to create a new scanner. So we write scanner input equals new scanner system.in, and we enter the break to signify the end line of code. Now as you can see here, we haven't imported our scanner, therefore it's wrong. So what we're going to do in NetBeans, you don't need to type anything, you just need to go to source, fix imports, and it'll automatically detect which import we need. Press OK, it'll insert it at the top, that way it saves you from typing in loads of stuff. So here we have defined our new scanner, and now we need to get input from the user. So firstly we need to tell them what to input. So we're going to give them a short message saying enter a number to raise to a power. Okay. And we're going to get that value from the scanner and place it into the variable user's number. So we type user's number is equal to input.nextInt, and what that does, it gets the value from the scanner or whatever the user enters, and it places it into the variable user's number. Now we're going to do the same thing for our power. Enter the power to raise by, and that should say enter because I can't spell, and we're going to write power to, which is the variable we would want to store it in, is equal to input.nextInt, and that should do it for that. So basically what we've done here is we've asked the user to enter a number and place it in the variable user's number. Then we've asked the user to enter a power and place it into the variable power to. Now because calculators on PCs don't have the power to option or the raise by a power operator, what we're going to do is we're going to keep multiplying out the value by itself until it reaches the value of the power to, or by the number of iterations the user has entered, which would be 3 or 4 if they wanted to raise it to the power of 3 or 4. So the way we can do this is by using a for loop. Now you guys could just say to yourself, why would you want to use a for loop? Or why can't you just place the for loop in this block of code? Now the reason we don't place the for loop in this block of code is because when programming, there's a series of steps you want to do to develop good program code. If you guys want these steps, I'll place it in the description where you guys can check out how to make your code more succinct and look neater, and so you can understand it more. So one of the methods we use is called procedure calls, and what a procedure call basically does is instead of having all your code in the main block, you make different procedures which control different things, and you call the procedures with reasonable names so you know what that procedure does. So for example, in this top one, the procedure myPower is going to calculate the function of multiplying the number by itself until it reaches the certain power. So what we're going to do is we're going to deal with this procedure first, and we're going to need two things. One, we're going to need a counter, because every for loop needs a counter. And another one, we're going to need a variable to store our result in. So we're going to write a variable integer result, and we're going to give it the value of 1. Now the reason we're giving it the value of 1, for those of you who don't know, anything raised to the power of 0, which is default for our program, would be 1. Now we can go ahead and write our for loop, and the beginning condition for our for loop is we're going to give the counter variable a value equal to 1. Enter semicolon for the break of that initial statement. Then we're going to write the final statement, or the end statement we need, which is the fact that our counter is going to be less than or equal to the value of power 2, which the user has provided the program, and we're going to increment our counter by 1. So what this is going to do is, for the value of counter to the value of power 2, so if the user entered 2, it will carry out this operation twice, and that would raise the number to the power of 2. However, if you look at our variable power 2 here, we can see that's underlined in red, which means that there's something we're missing. Now what we're missing is we haven't actually entered the procedure to pass the value of power 2 into our procedure myPower. This is a local variable, which means this variable can only be accessed by whichever procedure it is defined under. In this case, it would be defined under the main procedure, and therefore this variable can only be accessed by the main procedure. Now the way we give it to the myPower procedure so it can use these variables is, in our block of code we wish to pass the variables to, we type the procedure we want to pass the variables to, which would be myPower in this case, open our brackets, and enter our break. Now in these brackets we're going to give it the two values which we want to pass to the procedure myPower. In this case it would be user's number separated by a comma power 2, which will let us take the value of user's number and power 2 and pass it into the procedure myPower. Now it's going to give you this underline, meaning there's an error, and the error is the fact that we haven't defined that it's being passed values. So what we need to do in the myPower procedure, in the open brackets, we need to say integer, because it's being passed an integer, and write the number it's being passed, so user's number separated by a comma again, it's being passed another integer, and the integer it's being passed is the variable power 2. So the user's number is being passed into myPower. myPower is getting a variable user's number of value integer from the main procedure, and it's also getting a value of power 2 of variable integer from the main procedure. And as you can see here, power 2 has stopped being underlined in red because we've passed it the variable which allows us to use variables from another procedure. So to go ahead and do our calculation is quite simple. We just need to take the value of result and make it equal to the value of result multiplied by the user's number, and it's as simple as that, literally. So what we do is, if the user enters a number 2, for example, we're going to take 2 and keep repeating it until counter has reached the value of whatever power they want to raise it by. So to show you guys what I mean by this, we're just going to go ahead and we are going to run this package or this class, and here it says enter a number to raise to a power. So we're going to enter the number 2 for argument's sake, and we're going to raise it by the power of 3. Okay, sorry, one thing I forgot was to show us, obviously we need to see that it's working, so we're just going to print out a statement saying the result is, and then plus the value of result. Now if we go ahead, now if we go ahead and run that, we should get a enter the number to raise the power 2. We're going to enter the number 2, and we're going to raise it by the power of 3 for argument's sake, and we should get the value of 8, which it is 8. So what we've done here again is we've taken the local variable from main and user's number power 2. We fed it into our new procedure called myPower, which does all the calculations for us to calculate the value of myPower. And the purpose of doing this, once again, there'll be methods in the description telling you how to make your code more readable, more understandable, more succinct and neat, so that when someone looks at it, that's the foundations of good code. This is for every programming language. If you're learning Visual Basic, or you're learning Java, or you're learning C++ or C++, every code needs to have procedure calls, so when someone looks at it, they can tell what sort of code you're doing in this one, what sort of functions is performing in this one, and it'll make it easier for you to understand once you look over your code in case you forget where you've put stuff. Okay guys, now instead of taking values and returning it into this procedure or another procedure, and then the program just stopping after we've executed this procedure, I'm going to show you how to take that value and pass it back into our main procedure. Now the way we do this, instead of having the system.out.println result here, I'm going to put it in this one. But first, to show you that it's returning a value, I'm defining a new variable called returned valuable and giving it of integer value. Now, to do this, for the sake of today, we're going to write returned value, which is the value we want to get from the procedure myPower, pass it the variables which it needs to use, or which it's used, uses number, comma, power2, which is the variables that it's used. And what we're going to do now is we are going to write system.out.println returned value is, and then we're just going to write returned value because that's what we've stored the variable returned from myPower. Now you may notice it's underlined in red, and the reason for this is because we haven't told myPower what type of value it has to return to the main method. And the type of value it is returning to the main method is we're getting the value result. So we want to take the value of result and return it into the main method. And how we do that is we change this void into int because we're returning an integer. And after the for loop, we just want to type return result. And that should clear up any underlining that there is. So basically it's return result. And now we can go ahead and run the program. And it should return the value using this return value. So we enter the power 2. We enter the power we want it to be raised by, which is 3, which should give us the value 8. There we go. Return value is 8. So this has been a video on procedure calls. Now once again, I'll put the reasonings that we do procedure calls in the description below. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please take time to comment, rate and subscribe. And if you have any constructive criticism or any request videos that you guys want me to do, please feel free to leave that in the comments below. I would definitely do videos on that. I'm going to try starting a new tutorial series called the Java Projects tutorial, where I'll be making the more graphical elements rather than the more console elements as I have been doing so far. So you'll get more video tutorials like the input calculator with a graphical display and all of those good things. So once again, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video tutorial, and I will see you next time.